Hello, fellow YouTubers, and today in the Pokemon Generation Battle, we're looking at the best professors. They typically are the first person you see. They are your tutorial, mentor, friend, and aide. So if they suck, things probably won't turn out too well for you in the game. So for number 6, I have Professor Juniper. For one, she just talks way too much. I mean, it's crazy how much she talks. Which isn't so much her fault as it is the way Gen 5 plays for everyone. Lots of dialogue because it's a very story-driven game, which it's not her fault, but also when she tells you to meet her at Opelucid City for the way to wake up the legendary Pokemon of the game, and she has no information. It's like, what kind of waste was that? Also, she doesn't even give you your starter. Instead, she leaves it in a present for you. Why not be there to help the kids decide? She's so hands-off. Like, number 5 this week, I have Professor Elm. He just is so unimportant. For the complete opposite reason as Juniper, really. He talks so little. He's barely been relevant to the story after leaving for Violet City. On top of that, he just seems so clumsy and inexperienced at his job. Any other professor would do his job better than him, or at least as well. The only thing that keeps him from last place is the fact that he talks so little, you really don't have to deal with him that much. Which, personally, I think is better than too much. The next best, in my opinion, Professor Birch. Really, he does about as much as Professor Elm in terms of talking, and he's clumsy, also being attacked by a wild Pokemon. But in his defense, he went out and he was investigating. One of the few professors who has the guts to go out and investigate for themselves. Granted, he sends his child out too, but he looks himself. Really, him and Elm could go either way, but I just prefer Birch because he at least has the poise of a together professor. Holy hell, this week, Generation 5 falls into the top 3 for the first time. Big clap for Generation 6. Sycamore just is better to me. He is a Pokemon trainer, which none of the other professors are, without glitching or hacking, of course. He gives you 2 starter Pokemon because 2 is always better than 1. Also, he has a lot of new concepts to teach you about, and he does it fairly well, which is needed when you're adding in something like new evolutions. He also plans a big-ass parade for you because you saved the world. Which, last time I checked, no one else ever did, in real life or in Pokemon. Then you have the OG Professor himself, Oak. What needs to be said about Professor Oak? He really is more of a mentor than any other professor. He's just a cool old man who doesn't want you riding bikes inside. Also, he can't remember his grandson's name. Also, let me point out, he has his own radio show. He inspired other professors, and he's like a superstar professor himself. I mean, he can barely remember things, but he remembers his Pokemon. How awesome is that? Also, he's appeared in half of the main series games. So, there's that. And of course, that only leaves Rowan for the top spot. He's a gentle giant. He's intimidating and overall is a nice dude. He plans out tactics and controls 3 kids pretty well. Maybe it's the way I view him. He just comes off to me as like a mafia boss. Silent and intimidating, but when he talks, you better watch out. He genuinely loves Pokemon, and overall is thrilled to discover anything about them he can. A love of Rage candy bars and evolution suits him well. Anyway, I really don't have that much more to say. The new rankings are Gen 1 with 31 points, Gen 2 with 28 points, Gen 4 tied with Gen 2, Gen 3 with 23 points, Gen 5 has 19 points, and Gen 6 mounting a comeback with 18 points. Anything can happen as 3 gens could take first place next week. Plus, Gen 6 is coming out of the basement to fight for the 5th place. Unfortunately for Gen 6 though, next week's topic is the bad guys leader. So, anyway, comment your thoughts, who you think is going to win, or who your favorite professors are. And peace out, them home skillists.